Hello hippies, this is a $70,000 electric Volkswagen minivan, and while it is a very impressive modern interpretation of the classic Volkswagen bus that we all know and love, just who is this for? Well, I might have some idea. Let's get moving. But before all that, we have got to talk about just how crazy and cool the new Buzz looks. I mean, I really don't think Volkswagen could have done a better job in modernizing the classic vintage Volkswagen Buzz shape, especially given all the modern crash and safety regulations and aerodynamic efficiency that Volkswagen prioritizes for range. It also just screams concept car to me. I mean, this thing is so wild, it looks like it came directly from the debut stand at an auto show. Well, concept and tons of retro stuff as well. I mean, first of all, look how wide and tall this thing is, especially the very flat side, broad-sided space that it has here. I mean, that's just like a classic van. You've got the two-tone paint, the kind of the cool retro greenish yellow here with the white midsection and white roof, just like a van. Kind of a flat front also, classic. The largest Volkswagen grille badge that VW says is in their current production lineup, and I will tell you, probably my favorite bit of the outside has to be this flat wheel design that absolutely recalls the absolutely iconic smoothie wheel hubcap design that we all know and love from Beetles and vans. Now that stylistic craziness on the outside doesn't necessarily translate directly to, well, just the very specific driver's cockpit area right here. I mean, both the steering wheel, the small driver display, and the center screen here, this is mostly lifted directly out of the all-electric Volkswagen ID.4 crossover. So those already familiar with Volkswagen's other electric lineup, they're going to feel right at home, or they're just going to kind of recognize a lot of the stuff here. It's not until you start playing with the rest of the very cool interior where you'll find a lot of that really crazy utility. The interesting stuff really starts with how Volkswagen super maximized all the crazy cargo space and cubbies on the interior, even in the front seat. So let's start with that. Well, of course, we've got the traditional ho-hum glove box, but it's up here. You've got kind of an open floating shelf. It's nice and rubber lined for keys, phones, whatever your passenger wants to put in there. The door design is particularly interesting. While you've got a, traditional molded plastic bottom section for water bottles and papers, you've got a second level rubber lined shelf right there for all sorts of stuff you don't want rattling around with integrated charger. Speaking of chargers, right here next to the driver, you have a slot for your phone that goes right in. It's wireless charging, goes right in there with two USB-C ports. Cup holders are stowed in this handy dandy little door right here at the front. One of the coolest parts of the front is this completely removable center console, but I like leaving it in here because you have, in addition to a little fold-out cubby drawer thing there, and a full-length pull-out drawer for the back for you or your passengers, you've got this nice rubber-lined cavity on the top here that has two very interesting removable dividers. The first that also functions, other than being a divider, as an ice scraper for your windshield, and the second, a bottle opener for all of your road legal drinks that you may or may not need to pop the cap on. Pretty cool. But of course, the most important part of the ID Buzz is going to be the second and third row for passengers, because remember, after all, this is a minivan, and like most minivans worth their salt, you got a button to close the side sliding doors. And once the door is closed, you will see that there is a similar bi-level storage set up like there is on the front passenger doors there. You have both are molded plastic areas down here, so you have like water bottle storage and a bunch of stuff here, and then you've got just kind of basic rattly storage in here for whatever you want. USB-C charge port here. We have a, well, if the car was on we could see it, but this window moves back and forward here. It doesn't go down. That's not too bad, kind of a retro callback. Of course, you got lights up here, and you have your own little climate controls right there. Now, beyond the doors, there is a little bit more storage here to be had. We've got a standard lower backseat pocket here. You've kind of got a device-sized-ish pocket for phones and stuff up there. And don't forget, you still have the pull-out drawer from the BuzzBox, but also don't forget that this whole BuzzBox can be removed and latched at two different positions here on the center of the second row. Now, crucially, there is also a whole heck of a lot of passenger room, at least in the second row. We have tons of headroom, which is kind of a plus when you have a minivan and people getting in and out. Check out the amount of legroom I have. It's especially impressive because I'm behind my own seating position and I'm about 5'11" on a good day. This is an extremely comfortable space. Now, Volkswagen is quite proud of the ID Buzz's third row, well, for good reason. I mean, there's plenty of space here. I have not moved the second row chair forward or backwards from when I was sitting up there, and you saw how much passenger space there was up there. Well, I gotta say, I am very pleased and very comfortable with how much passenger space there is in the third row, and I am definitely not the smallest guy. I mean, look at this legroom. I gotta say, just by experience, this is easily one of the nicest or one of the most expansive third rows that you can buy new in 2024 and 2025. In addition, you've also still got some storage options up here and down towards the bottom there. You've kind of got a little shallow cup holder area right here. You've got another shallow, narrow kind of space right here for pens and keys and whatever you want. Another storage right there with a USB-C port on either side for charging. And then down here you have a nice little well for like a water bottle or something like that. Not too bad at all. Oh, and you won't be too hot or too cold because you have each side has its own individual private air conditioning vent. Not bad. Now, I do want to take just a moment to talk about how nice the materials are inside the ID Buzz, as well as kind of the fit and finish. I'm still sitting in the third row because most of the materials that are nice still extend all the way back here. The upholstery is nice. I'm not sure if this is real or synthetic leather. I'm going to say this is probably synthetic, eco-friendly leather. The whole vehicle has extended copper piping and stitching, copper colored as it were. It's kind of matching these motifs here on the side, but nice stitching, nice materials. There's soft touch plastics everywhere. There's a nice, even in the third row, there's a nice kind of pad to put your arm on. Generally, there's just kind of an air of quality around here. Now, I am not about to review a minivan as unconventional as this might be without showing you all the different ways to get in and out and things that help you get in and out and fold the seats, all that good stuff for all the families out there. So, of course, powered door, but you already saw that. Now, before I even touch the seats, there are two things that I like about getting in and out of the ID Buzz. You've got a nice little pull strap here for if you need some help. And this step right here has been really helpful. They have one on both sides of all passenger doors, and it's kind of easy to get in and out of. Put your foot there. Okay, so two options with the seat. You can obviously have the fold flat for cargo purposes. Put this back up. But getting in the third row, not too bad. Just standard pull here goes forward. There, and I'm going to have my videographer here help me out with putting the seat back. Excellent. Look at this. And then it can, not too bad. Obviously, we've got to talk about cargo, well, the main cargo storage in the back, because this is a very family-friendly utilitarian vehicle. You're going to want to throw all sorts of dogs and cats and all sorts of kayaks and stuff in here and backpacks. So let's start with the third row up, which, by the way, you can fully remove both third row seats from the car. I'm not going to do that on camera because that seems like probably a total pain for what we're doing right now. But for now, not too bad back here. It's what honestly as expected in most minivans with the third row up. I had my rollerboard hard side bag up back here along with a large backpack, and there was plenty of other space for maybe some more grocery bags, maybe another backpack, so not too bad. As you might notice, there's kind of some little storage bins down here. You can put charge cords in, whatever else kind you want down there. It's a nice little damped setup here too. Not damped on the way down though, as I discovered the hard way. And again, like I said earlier, of course, the third row folds flat, and as you saw earlier, the second row also folds flat, so you can throw, oh, I don't know, let's talk about like surfboards, air mattress and everything. And I know you're definitely going to want to see all that frunk space up front, this being an electric vehicle. We don't have the burden of having an engine and transmission and all that stuff taking up space in the front, so there's probably, you know, enough for like a little shopping bag or maybe charge cords. So let's see what we got. Oh, okay, so not much here, but honestly, usually it's 50-50 given electric vehicles. Some have frunk, some don't. Clearly this one does not. No big deal, there's plenty of space in the back. So, how does it drive? Well, you know what? I would have to say that's probably the least important factor of the ID Buzz, given that the primary purpose of this sucker is to haul everybody and everything in quiet, efficient comfort. But the news is good because after, about 70 or 80 miles of very aggressively curving coastal road all the way up in California's Bay Area, yeah, this thing drives pretty great. I'm surprised. This thing does not drive like a minivan at all, nor does it really drive like a bus. This is probably one of the more spatially interesting driving experiences I've had in quite a while due to just how the front of the car, of the ID Buzz, is organized. So, unlike the Toyota Sienna or the Honda Odyssey or even the Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid that has a gas engine up front, well, there's really no need for that on the ID Buzz because there's no engine. So to compensate for that with crash structure and all that good jazz, you can't have a directly upright windscreen these days right in front of the driver unless you're like driving a commercial bus, which this is not for obvious reasons. So to compensate, they've put quite a bit of space between the, again, still upright windshield and the driver, but to compensate for visibility and with all of our crash structure, you have these really nice windows visible on either side as part of the windshield structure. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of fun, honestly, especially if this serves as like a second or third or sometimes fourth vehicle. Every time you hop in and you've been in something else for a while, it's kind of fun. It's the only electric minivan on the market at this time. And based on my experience, this has to be the best way to shuttle 3 rows of people with an all-electric vehicle. At launch, there will be 2 distinct powertrain configurations. There is the single motor rear-wheel drive model that we are driving right now. And then for the middle and upper trims, you can get a all-wheel drive dual motor model. Now, regardless of which motor's configuration you pick, you're gonna have a 91 kilowatt hour battery pack. And you can have range that's very similar to regardless of which motors you pick. Before we get into that, let's talk power. So the rear wheel drive single motor ID Buzz that we are in now has 282 horsepower and 413 pounds-feet of torque. You're gonna get 234 miles of EPA-rated range out of the single motor. And if you jump up to the all-wheel drive, you get 335 horsepower. Range in the all-wheel drive drops to 231 miles of EPA-rated range. So, all right, I'll be honest, that's not really that amazing in 2025. I don't think it's gonna be a deal breaker because I've had to think quite long and hard about who the ID Buzz is for in any configuration. You're not gonna be wanting to take this on a bunch of road trips, but honestly, again, I was thinking about this. This is gonna be primarily bought by city dwellers regardless, urban dwellers and some suburban dwellers, but those that have either home charging or have ready access to inner city charging. As great as this is as a road trip vehicle physically, I think Volkswagen is fine with leaving it kind of off the table. And you can for shorter road trips, especially if you know there's gonna be charging on the way. I mean, we took this would be what would be considered a day trip for a lot of families. We drove about 70, 80, 90 miles today in the Bay Area. We got pretty good out of town. I would have to say probably next to the price, which we're gonna get to in a second, probably the biggest determining factor in which you're gonna get, if you're gonna get an ID Buzz or not. Over 200 miles is way more than people need for daily use vehicle. And of course, the old thing is like, well, if you wanna go out of town, just rent a car. So on to price. Yeah, starting at right just over 60 grand. That is a pretty penny to pay. But I gotta say, you are getting, just at least from interacting with this, I can't really speak for longevity, but just touching and feeling the cabin and the way this thing rides, the way it drives, the way it feels, all the touch points, all the plastic, it's nice. It's a nice product. But honestly, again, I'm not gonna say it is or isn't worth it, but at least the materials and the presentation and the fit and finish and the design, you're not gonna feel like they cheaped out. So this is the extended wheelbase in America. They do offer a short wheelbase ID Buzz abroad. We only get the long wheelbase. The longer wheelbase over the ID4, it pays dividends for sure. From a ride quality perspective, from a handling perspective, not that handling is an important factor at all when it comes to an electric minivan, but it has a distinctly lower center of gravity. If you got to take a bunch of family to a cabin or like we take them on PCH like we did today, you're not going to be bored. You can hang on through some corners that you probably weren't expecting. Your kids will probably be sick though, so be careful. But yeah, power-wise, it's fine. I'm not gonna say this is anything more than adequate, even in all-wheel drive form. You'll be able to merge safely. 0 to 60, let's go. Yeah, I've been flooring it, not exactly, and there we go, 60. Yeah, not exactly the fastest car on the road. I mean, this thing weighs 6,100 pounds, but it drives a whole lot lighter than that, I would say, from a dynamic perspective. I like the steering in this, even though it is quite digital and numb and, just artificial. It perfectly suits the purpose of the vehicle. The ride is very nice. I'm in sport mode now, which adjusts the throttle and the accelerator pedal and the steering effort, and it's nice. The brake blend, that is the balance between the regenerative braking system and the physical brakes, excellent. Really, some of the better brake blend I've experienced on a current electric vehicle. Better, I believe, than the ID4. It's, very quiet. What a surprise. Not much wind noise, not much road noise, basically no wind noise, I would say, but hardly any road noise. You're really only going to notice that with the radio completely off and you're sitting with your own thoughts. What a scary concept that is. But overall, very impressed. Very nice vehicle to drive, especially in an urban environment, even out on these roads out here in a not urban environment. And you've got all sorts of toys to play with. I am not the biggest fan of the touch-capacitive controls for the climate control and the volume, but I hate to say this, I'm getting more used to it every time I drive one of these Volkswagens equipped as such. And it's kind of been a non-issue for the most part when I've not really been listening to music a lot, and climate control is easy to operate. I admit it. Overall, what an impressive bit of kit, really. I was not expecting this. Genuinely not expecting this. Very pleasantly surprised. I like this thing. You come to us at the end of a beautiful coastal drive up through California's Bay Area, doing some very non-minivan-like activity on the very squiggly PCH. And I gotta be honest, I am way more impressed with the new ID Buzz than I expected to be coming into this drive, and that is primarily because I was expecting this to drive and interact and function like a reskinned ID4. And there is a lot of ID4 underneath the skin of this thing, but it is so much more than that. I'll tell you this, if you're in the market for an electric minivan, tough. I mean, that's all there is. At this point in time, there's nothing else like it. But if you're interested in this at any level, but there's something holding you back, like maybe you don't need or interested in an electric vehicle, or you're not even in the market for a minivan, hey, I'm telling you to check this thing out. It is that interesting, it is that stylish, it is that fun, and it is that utilitarian. But, of course, for my full thoughts and reviews, you gotta go to Cars.com/news. Peace, man.